This episode is brought to you by Cologuard. Do you know what's really scary? Not screening for colon cancer when you turn 45. The Cologuard test is non-invasive, requires no special prep or time off work, and ships right to your door. In just 3 simple steps, Cologuard takes the scare out of colon cancer screening. If you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about the Cologuard test. Cologuard is available by prescription only. Learn more or request a prescription today at cologuard.com/screen.
On tonight's wrap, the blue and blacks are black and blue from the balls. Scarlets beat Zebra. Dragons are very good weathering the storm. And Ospreys flopping Benetton. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. As ever, it's me, Harley, in the hot seat. I am joined by the usual motley crew of Dan, Nick, and Hattie. How are we all doing this weekend?
All
Really
good.
good, thanks.
The
Thank you.
least enthusiastic from the only one whose team won this weekend is all you need to know about Welsh Rugby. Anyway, let's get to it. So, Nick, what's on news desk this week?
Yeah, relatively quiet actually. Just some good news, in my opinion, anyway. That 2 young Wales under 20 players, wing Tom Bowen and centre Stefan Emmanuel, signed new contracts with Cardiff. Both have had, quite a bit of first-time experience, and I think it's fair to say they've got big features in the game. So that is very good news, obviously for Cardiff, but also for Welsh Rugby. And just this afternoon, just before we've started recording, the WRU have announced that they've extended the negotiation period allocated to the to Y11 Sports and Media for the purchase of Cardiff Rugby for a further 30 days. I guess it's not a big surprise given that the EGM is coming up in April. People will read into it whatever you want. But I say it's not come as a huge surprise to me anyway. But I'll obviously welcome comments from either the rest of you.
I don't think it's anything to do with the EGM. I think it's because they're worried about Swansea Council legal action and trying to get some sort of injunction to stop it happening. I also feel like it just says to me that they probably couldn't agree things as quickly as they'd have liked. Because if they managed to get a done deal, they'd probably shuffled it on a lot quicker. And I think maybe one side wants more or less than the other one's willing to give. And the WO seem very adamant that they're not compromising or anything, these professional agreements at the moment. Especially in terms of control and say over the teams. And I'll be honest, it's just proving once again how irritating the WRU are. I mean, it's bad enough that they've taken us down this route, and it feels more like dragging feet. And so talking with a load of people in the club, a lot of them Ospreys fans, a lot of Cardiff fans, and all of them now they've just given up caring. They just want it done. They don't care what the decision is anymore. They're just fed up. And I swear this is how the WRU plan on wearing this down, is just by letting the apathy take over and dragging things on until we're just begging them to make a decision.
And it's slowly winning, isn't it? And I kind of think that there's maybe a little bit of both involved. If you're Y11 maybe, and you're thinking that Richard Collier-Keywood, who's clearly a friendly, is potentially about to lose his position, then maybe you'd want a little bit of extra grace just to see what the outcome of the EGM is before pulling the trigger on a deal that is going to cost you millions of pounds and may not be favourable to you in the long run. So maybe there's a little bit of that, but I do think on the whole as well, the legal action plays a big part in it. Surely the only winner at the moment in all of this are the lawyers involved. There's how many legal battles have they got ongoing at the minute, or how much are they spending on legal fees? There must be loads of legal fees being spent on the sale of, or proposed sale of Cardiff to start off with, just as they would be for sale of any business or property or whatever it may be. They got an ongoing dispute with the Scarlets, is my understanding as well, haven't they, down there? And obviously Swansea Council and everything that goes along with that. So they not fighting fires, but they're dealing with things on 3 fronts there. And yeah, it's soul destroying, really, isn't it? The amount of time that it's taking and so on and so forth. So yeah, let's hope this gets resolved quickly. I'll be interested to see what the EGM changes, if anything. And then I suppose we'll kind of go from there. But it's a shame, really, that nothing's. We can't get anything done at speed, can we?
No.
Can't get anything. We can't get anything sorted and dealt with properly. There's a massive lack of transparency on everything that gets done, and probably like you guys, you just get a bit fed up with it. And like Harley was saying, then people just think, oh, let's get on with it. Whatever has got to be done, it's got to be done. And apathy wins, and when apathy takes over, well, it's a sad state of affairs to be in, because it means that people have just given up caring. So yeah, let's see how it unfolds over the next. How long's it been extended? 30 days.
No, 30 days. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And that's the end of the news. I'll let Hattie talk about. There's a couple of things from the women's game.
Yeah, we've got a slightly larger news desk on the women's side than we have on the men's side for once, which is quite fun. So I'll start off with the bad news. So our former co-captain or current co-captain, Alex Callender, is out for the Six Nations with an ankle injury. And Nell Metcalf is also ruled out of the Six Nations with a knee injury, although I think they've said that she's out for, I can't remember whether it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So that leads me to believe it's not an ACL, it's just some other knee injury, which is always a worry in the women's game. But as I said, as Alex Callender is out, Kate Williams has been named the full captain for the Six Nations, which will be exciting to see. She's played a couple of games with Brithon this season, but has obviously primarily been with Gloucester Hartpury, where she's been player of the match multiple times. She's an immense player, so very, very exciting to see. Wales women's under-18s won 45-0 up in Scotland yesterday, which was absolutely mental. Really, really exciting to see. And hopefully that means they've got their under-18 Six Nations Festival coming up with that same squad. So hopefully that's news of good things to come. Just to follow up with that though, so they publicised that but didn't publicise the Wales women's under-18s game against Italy, which they also won a couple of weeks ago. And if you go on the WRU website, which Hugh did the other day, earlier on today, there's basically no information about Wales women at all, or the under-18s or under-21s. They've got no games on there. It doesn't have the Wales women's game against the Barbarians listed. None of it. So just once again, the WRU website continues to be absolute dog shit. But with my news kind of wrapped up, we've got Brithon and Gwalia games from the weekend. They are both unfortunately out of the Celtic Challenge. The final is this weekend between the two Irish teams. Gwalia lost 35-20 and Brithon lost 36-10 against the reigning back-to-back champions. Have to be honest, I'm not super surprised at the score. I wasn't really expecting either team to win up against almost entirely professional Irish sides, which are chock full of internationals, away in Ireland as well. But I will say that the turnout for Welsh fans was absolutely massive. It looked about 50-50 on telly. I don't know if any of you watched it, but huge Welsh turnout. And I have to be honest, it kind of matches my prediction, which I think I gave a couple of months ago, which was that the teams would come third and fourth and they'd make the playoffs. I think I said, if one team battled for second, which Gwalia did for a bit, I'd be happy as well. So yeah, it's good to see. Hopefully as we go into next year, the squads will be a little bit more settled and less back and forth, the PWR. Because I really think especially, Gwalia really struggled in the second half of the season because half of their players went back to the PWR, whereas Brithon kind of grew a little bit more as they were able to pull in a couple of PWR players. So hopefully, fingers crossed, next season they're able to battle for that first and second spot and make the final. Either one or both teams. I don't know.
Will the delay in any decision making around, the game in Wales, will that impact on potential budgets to allow those type of players to become pro, semi-pro, whatever you want to say, in Wales? Are we going to be able to match offers if they play for Gloucester, Harbury, or Loughborough, are they going to be in position to match those type of offers?
So I think when it comes to the likes of a Jasmine Joyce, who did actually play for Brithon this weekend, to be fair to her, for the likes of Jasmine Joyce, she's going to be one of those rare Welsh players in England actually making quite a lot of money. The vast majority of Welsh players in England do not make much money. They are making, between 5 and 10,000, if that. Most of them are making like petrol money.
Okay.
From what I've heard from sort of parents of players and so on and so forth, the young Celtic Challenge players are making more money from the Celtic Challenge off match fees than they are from contracts that they were offered in England with Gloucester, Hartpury and Bristol. So on that side, it's good, but they're only getting match fees. So if they don't play, they don't get paid, even though they're expected to train. I think this season, from what I understand, it was still very much on like the old system. They're moving away. They want to upgrade. I think next season, from what I've heard, the budgets are bigger, but I personally would like to see them move towards this is your season's contract. This is what you're being paid. And I think, to be honest, it's not going to be difficult to get that lower band of players. I don't think we're going to get back. Well, we might get Alex Calendar back if she continues to have her injury problems, but we're not going to get back Jazz Joyce. Kate Williams, I think, will be a struggle. Those big name players that people know. But then again, we were able to pull back somebody like Gwen Crabb. So it swings and roundabouts. I would really, really love to see like Maisie Davis be able to play full time in the Celtic Challenge. I'd love to see Courtney Keat play full time in the Celtic Challenge and not have to go and play in England. I think it'd be good to have our younger core players to stay in Wales. Because the problem is when they go over to England, they're coming off the bench, they're travelling reserves, they're not getting the full development because there's also a limit on how many non-English players you can have in a matchday 23. So they're getting passed up for Canadians, for, bronze medal Americans. Yeah, which you understand, because if you've brought in a Blackburn for 3 months, you're going to want to play her as much as possible. But it means that a Welsh player who's in a different position, who's barely getting paid, is going to get left off because they have to bring in an English player because they've already got New Zealand-based players and they've got to have. Yeah, I want as many Welsh players as possible playing in the Celtic Challenge because one, it'll improve the Celtic Challenge standards, and two, it will eventually improve the national team because those players are getting game time. It happened in Ireland. Those players got a higher level of competition. They started playing a lot better on a national level. So, yeah.
It's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's really not. And the thing is, with women's rugby, the amount of investment you have to put in to make a difference is minuscule in comparison to the amount of money you have to invest in men's rugby to make a difference because the budgets all around are so low. So it really would not take any investment at all to make a huge difference. And I think, when you look at what some other countries are doing with their women's teams, one, Brithon and Gwalia need their own sponsors. They should, they've got Vodafone because Vodafone sponsors the national team, but get both of those teams to have more of an identity, have local businesses sponsor the team, build it up, have more community stuff going on. It really is not rocket science at all.
Thank you.
And is that all we have for news?
That's all my women's news.
Yeah. Me, I'm done.
Excellent. Well, in that case, let's move on to some on the pitch action. I was very tempted to do this in reverse chronological order, just because then hopefully I could forget talking about the Cardiff game. But unfortunately, we do have to talk it. So I'll start off. Cardiff just basically capitulated out the Blues, despite Harry Millard try right at the start, which I'll be honest came more from a good read and defence than any actual decent attack.
It was a nice try, though.
It was a very nice try, but then we conceded 40 unanswered points, and a lot of them were very soft. There was one moment of madness with Nizam Khan where there is no way on earth he meant to do that with his foot. I don't care what he's telling people in the bar afterwards. He did not mean that. But still, our defensive line was in such a disarray. That space was open. We were just outmuscled physically, and when we did get the ball, even though we were able to make some nice breaks, just passed on the hand. And it's the problem that Cardiff have had after an international block for quite a while. We just look like a bunch of people who've only just met. I do wonder if it's something that Cardiff need to take a leaf out of a lot of other teams' books where they have the Ranger friendly, even if it's against an SRC level English champ side, just to get things clicking. Because I think a lot of things were masked by the Leinster performance because that was more about tactical kicking and you could get away a little bit more on the individual side of things because there was no time to run rugby. Up in Pretoria, dry track, we got cut up, and it was quite annoying. I was quite annoyed at that actually when I finally had to get round and watch that. Don't know if anyone else wants to jump in on that one.
I'll just ask a question, really, Harley. Is that well, even though Cardiff have been until this weekend difficult to beat, and the defence mean they haven't, compared to previous years, they haven't scored many tries. The attack's not functioned as well as it has in the past. How concerned are you about that?
Quite, and the guys in Car Central have been as well. Like, we really would have liked a proper attack coach brought in when we knew Sherritt was leaving, obviously with different finances and this whole thing with Tritton down a region. We think the W's holding off on putting any appointments like that until we've got a thing, presumably, because they're gonna, if they're honouring existing contracts for a team being closed down, they're gonna shuffle the coaches and the staff into each other. It's been quite hard to do recruitment as well. Like retentions is one thing, but recruitment's a bit more difficult. But yeah, it's getting worrying. After that first block of 5, where you could see Jockey, sort of the work Jockey had done in the preseason had shown off, and then it's gotten a lot less, and particularly our red zone efficiency, which is something that under Sherritt was brilliant. Even if we weren't getting into the 22, we were able to score from it, and now we can't. And it has been a bit of a worry. It was particularly troubling in the Scarlets game before Christmas, and it seems to, if anything, get slightly worse. And what was always a shaky set piece seems the crack when the cracks go at big times. And you can look at the stats, and yeah, some of them are fine. Our tackle completion was the same as the balls, but the thing you don't see is when we miss a tackle, it's not just that the tackle's missed. It's the fact that missed tackle leads to a line break, leads to a quick run, and then a try. And it's our defense is great when it works, but if it breaks easy. And it seems almost more individuals, and there are certain individuals who just keep getting caught out in D. And I don't want to pick on names, but it seems to be the same individuals getting caught out in D. Obviously, it didn't help having a couple of substitutions forced on early. Because is never good. I mean, I don't think Ellis Bevan's played since he's had injury troubles himself, and then but it just smacks of a preseason game. But this isn't a preseason game; it's a league, and we bemoaned the fact that we went for a much weakened team out in South Africa last year when we were chasing a couple of points, hoping we could get a strike. But this was a strong team. Really, the only players were missing were Alex Mann and Josh Adams. And Teddy Williams being injured still a loss, and we do have a few back rowers injured, but we still had the likes of Tane Blasham, who people are calling for going in the Wales squad, Alan Lawrence, who people have called for going in the Wales squad, Dan Thomas been excellent all season, and to be fair to him, he had a very good game again. Jim Botham and Felipe Falato on the bench, it's just really it's just really frustrating that you're watching this and you're just going, but you see the displays they put on for the rest of the season, and it's similar players, and you just don't get why. I said I do think a lot of it is just they just don't seem, if they're not playing regularly, Cardiff just don't seem to get into games. So who knows? Maybe it means that next week against the Sharks it'll be a lot better, but it's yet another trip to Pretoria where we get absolutely pantsed.
Look, it was obviously a tough day at the office, but if you're going to go anywhere for it to be a tough day at the office, the hardest place to travel is South Africa. In terms of your bonus points and stuff like that, you're on about your try scoring. In 8 wins, mind, you've had 5 try scoring bonus points within those wins, and you've come within 7 on 3 out of 5 losses. So, when was the last time Cardiff played before Saturday? Was it Saturday? Yeah.
Friday.
That would have been the following week against Leinster, the 8-7 game.
There you go. And that wasn't it. That was a bit of a damp squib, really, wasn't it? What with the weather and all of that sort of nonsense. So there's a lengthy delay between fixtures. Look, I think if I was sort of involved, you kind of want to come out of the Sharks fixture like unscathed more than anything else in terms of injuries. What are the fixtures after this for Cardiff, Harley? Do you know?
So it's so we've got Sharks away, then it'll be Benetton away. Then if we beat Benetton, which isn't easy, isn't a given, that would be I think it's either Munster or Exeter away. Teams we've both lost to this season. Albeit maybe we, I've argued we probably should have won that Munster game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then I believe it's It's either Scarlets or Osprey. It's one of our derbies.
Well,
and then I think Glasgow away.
I suppose the point I'm kind of getting to there is that while it's away from home, Benetton's a winnable fixture, more so than winning out in South Africa, as is then one of the Welsh derbies and so on and so forth. So look, it's a tough place to go. Better teams, bigger budgeted teams than Cardiff and any of the Welsh regions really have gone to South Africa and come unstuck, haven't they? So I wouldn't be too down in the dumps about it.
It's more for me. It's seeing a trend. It's more the trend, not being bucked. Is that we always see Cardiff really slow after these international breaks, and we're not learning.
Yeah, I get that.
That's where it's frustrating for me. Is it's a bit like issues that Hattie and Hugh and Lee have said about Scarlets in the past, where they have a really promising last few games of the season, and when they get to the first round of the next season, it's like they've not those games never happened. It's just a bit frustrating. But we're going to talk about, as I've brought up the Scarlets, we're going to talk about not a frustrating game, but a rip-roaring win. Although I don't know how pleased you are about the 17 on the opposite column, Hattie.
Yeah, the first half was mad. We were coming up with some absolutely mad stats in the Scarlets group chat of like, it's the first time in like, please don't quote me on this if anybody is going to quote, please don't. I'm coming with these off the top of my head. It's like the first time in 3 years that we've had 4 tries before half time, and like first time in the same amount of time that we've nilled the opposition before half time. Like just mad things. So on that point, it was great. I thought Carmen Leggett-Jones, yeah, he didn't have the best day off the tee for him. He's still, he's 12. So I'm not expecting him to be the most reliable off the tee quite yet. I thought, he didn't get put off by an early charge down. He was like, handle it, deal with it. Was a little bit cocky with it, but it's kind of what you want to see from a 10. I did think there was a very, very funny moment just before half time where Johnny Williams got tripped over by Ellis Mee. I don't know if any of you caught it. It was very, very funny. But then going into the second half, we let in some tries we maybe shouldn't have. Like the maul, fair enough. I'll let you have the maul. They'd worked pretty hard. We let in a maul try, is what it is. We kept them scoreless in the first half. The final try that we let in, ridiculous. We should not have. It was like 83 minutes. It was just ridiculous that happened. We just completely switched off. I'm really frustrated in how we played in the second half. It was just teeny tiny little errors that led to bigger problems, and we shouldn't have let in 17 points. Very frustrating. I will say the second Max Page try, I did absolutely lose my shit, and then I thought it was really rude that it was disallowed. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with the game, but I'm really annoyed with that second half. But the first half, excellent. Second
What was the score at
half,
half time?
it was we had 4 tries at half time, but we missed 2 conversions, so
Was that 24?
24-0.
24-0. You know, at any level of rugby, it's a good. What more you got to think on that as well is that any team's going to have some sort of momentum swing.
Mm.
You know, Zebra always
Yeah,
going to have a purple patch at some point. They're much improved as well than they have been in, recent, in years gone by. And okay, you conceded 17 points, but they still came away with nothing, didn't they? No bonus points. And what was the finals? 34, 36,
36-17.
17. Yeah, I think that's a good win from, it was routine victory really for the Scarlets when then that's the biggest and best compliment you can have in a way is that they never look like losing the fixture at all.
No, no, I just think, to be honest, I think I wouldn't be as annoyed with the game if it wasn't for that final try. I think it was
Yeah,
on like 83, 82, 83 minutes, something like that. It was just a really soft try to let in. It gets converted. It instantly goes from a 36-10 game to 36-17. Like, it just didn't need to. They'd switched off a bit. Um, so yeah. And I think as well, their second try was like right by 80 minutes as well. Just didn't need to
yeah.
happen.
Games won though in there. Players switch off, and there's a little bit of self-preservation in there. People don't want to get injured, and
Mm.
you've unloaded the bench and stuff like that. And whilst I agree with you, it is annoying because it could have been an even greater margin of victory. I think that you should be pleased with the performance. I caught up on it, and I thought they were good.
Mm.
They were really good. So yeah, they were well deserving of the victory out west, and you know, effectively the game was over as a contest at half time.
Yeah, I just think it's, the difference between teams that are, that achieve and do really, really well. They don't switch off. They don't have that, they're not conceding 2 tries in the
Yeah,
last 5 minutes. And I think that's where it's frustrating. And I think, Harley might feel the same a bit with Cardiff, where, yeah, I think if a bottom 8 team goes out to South Africa, you're like, oh, well, they didn't win, but like nobody was really expecting you to. But, Cardiff been a top 4 team this season. Should
yeah,
they really have had? So, yeah, I think that's where it's a little bit frustrating. Having said that, we're like, you know, right at the bottom of the table, but
Yeah,
with the parts that we've got, we shouldn't be.
I get where Hattie's coming from because especially when I mean we'll get onto the Dragons game later, but if you look at their last stand right towards the end, and probably very little chance of Dragons going up the other end and getting securing the losing bonus point. They're not going to lose anything from keeping Storms out. It'd been a quick way to end the game, but they kept fighting. Your
Mm.
your favor phrase of dying on their shields, and I feel like from what I watched of both those two, both Cardiff Scarlets game, there was a lot more self-preservation and necessarily not so much of that. But whether it's the right or wrong thing, I don't know. But yeah, I do get where Hattie's a bit frustrated with those, particularly when they came. Like I think if they sort of happened in I think if those tries happened in like the 50th or 60th minute, you wouldn't be as bothered. But I think it's because you're
Yeah,
so close to.
I'm just looking now. The first try we conceded was at 63 minutes, and it was the Maul try. Fair enough. I took that one. I was like 29-5 at 63 minutes standard, but then it was conceding 2 very, very relatively easy tries at 78 minutes and 82 minutes.
oh yeah, it's a complete kick in the gut. I do
Yeah.
accept that. Um, yeah, but I still think it was a good win. I do
Yeah.
accept um the fact that they've switched off. I suppose Zebra in a way are probably fighting for their life as well a little bit,
Yeah.
aren't they? Because the uncertainty of their future that's been in recent times as well over there. So, and ultimately, I suppose when it's your profession, there's maybe a little bit more pride attached to it. But no, I do understand where you're coming from, but it wouldn't, if I was in your shoes, it wouldn't take the shine off what was a routine win for me.
Anyway, so that's the Scarlets' big win. Now we move a little bit closer, and we're going to have our on-site reporter to talk us through Benetton versus Ospreys.
Come on, Judith.
Well, first of all, can I say, if you get a chance to go there, it's a really nice little setup, nice little stadium, and it was a good atmosphere, in fairness. I think it was 5,500 there, and very welcoming fans, and plenty of bars and so on. Yeah, so it's a nice little setup there, and you can see.
Oh, sorry, Nick. How was the hotel?
Oh, the hotel was fine, even though I am going to be accused of stalking the Ospreys, because unbeknown to me, totally unbeknown to me, they were staying at the stadium, as actually was the ref and the TMO. And we had a couple of beers with them on Saturday night. So, and I'll come back to them in a minute. Yeah, I suppose as a neutral, it was quite a good game with a 31-19 scoreline. As an Osprey, it was very, very, very frustrating because they're like us. They're a mid-table team. We just made far too many mistakes. We were poor defensively. Defensively, a couple of tries were too easy, and that was both organisation as well, system organisation, and slipping off tackles. And you're not going to win many rugby games if you're doing that. I think Justin Tipperick, as a defence coach, and the other coaches will be disappointed. It's disappointing to concede 5 tries against a team like Benetton, who are not a top team, let's be honest. I don't know, we made some strange decisions when we away from home, and we caught the kickoff clean. We set up a ruck, Ratty run it up, and in the 22 and you're away from home, we decided to run it from our own 22. And I guess perhaps they wouldn't expect that either, but we ended up knocking it on and putting pressures on ourselves in the first minute. We managed to just about escape that episode. We did have scrum dominance, but then we were winning penalties and we're inaccurate from the line out. So if we kick it to touch, we might get the ball back, or we lost a couple, one or two as well, or we set up a maul and they were able to disrupt it. So we didn't really have that platform. It wasn't a great performance. Possibly it was a bit of rust, but that could easily apply to Benetton as well, because they've not played since the middle of the Six Nations. And as predicted, Ratavi likes to take it out on Welsh teams. Had a huge influence on the match. He's basically just a fast-moving fridge, as wide and as tall as anything else, and he's so hard to put down. But I think for Benetton, some of the other players who can be a little bit inconsistent, and by the nature of that, they're going to have good games as well, and they did. I thought Amunga played very well outside half for them, and Mendy on the wing and the other wing for the Argentinian. He had a very good game. And I can't argue on the best day on the team on the day one. We were guilty of overplaying at times. We need to kick a bit more. I think a half box to blame there. Well, Walsh overall game was above average, and he can fill in outside half. But when you're away from home, I do think you need to kick a bit more and put more pressure on them. I think we only kicked the ball 11 or 12 times. And by now, Walsh is a much better 15 than a 10. And I'm going to say this now. I'm going to sort of give you 2 sides of it, really. Our discipline in terms of penalties conceded was generally good. We didn't concede that many penalties, but obviously we're going to probably talk about Moriarty and some very silly moments from him in the second half. It was his worst performance for us since he's joined us. And he rightly got his 2 yellows, if you like, and possibly one of them should have been a straight red, which ultimately I don't know how they judged that, but yeah. So when you're going into a game like that and you're playing 30 minutes, effectively down to 14, I do think, and I didn't say this to the ref, but they were quite lucky not to get yellow cards earlier than they did, as they gave second half in particular. They gave an awful lot of penalties before eventually a card came out, and they were for a deliberate knock-on from memory and a high tackle. Not just we were pressurising them on, in their 22, and they were giving penalty. but they didn't get a yellow card for that. So which I thought, that and another day that would have been different. We scored some good tries. The two from Kieran Williams, who had a good game, and the one just on the 79th minute was from Luke Davis, was a decent try. At that point, it was 14, I think, against 13. But as I say, we were already down to 14 with Moriarty sent off, and Zebra had their yellow, I think, on the 71st and 73rd minute. And it's 2 point. I think they were the better team. We could easily have got 2 bonus points, and even at still at points, especially when Moriarty's had his brain farts, we would have still had a chance of winning. But it wasn't to be, and we ended up coming away with nothing. In fairness, I thought the bench had a good impact. Reece Henry, Lloyd Lewis, and Harry Houston did the basics well, made a lot of meters, and gave us some new energy. I didn't think Ryan Combier, who came in very last minute, Keenan Giles was there, but had apparently some tightness in his calf, so they didn't risk him, and he looked like a player hadn't played for a long time. The other thing I would say, obviously, it was great to see Jack Morgan back on the pitch. And after 4 months out, even in his little cameo, he was excellent. I think he won 2 turnovers in that period and shows what a quality player he is. Yeah, so as I say, frustrating. And, we really are hard pushed now, I think, to finish in the top 8.
Yeah, I think Hugh is saying on the URC Rewind, which you can check out on our sister channel, the Global Game Line. He was saying that he's probably reckoning that if you guys don't get anything out of the Connacht game this weekend, then you're probably out of it, because it's going from like an 8-point gap then to potentially a 13-point gap. I think Connacht in 9th, so that could be a
test.
And Goldwood is a hard place to go there for both sides. So, but I mean, you're going to get 5 points against Cardiff at Cap, so that's a banker.
I just wanted to push back a little bit. I've seen a few things online about Moriarty. I think he's been a good signing for us. I like Moriarty. He didn't have a good game, and his discipline was poor in this game. But that's his first yellow of the season. And I've heard others have a go at him, but just factually, he's had those yellows. Whereas obviously, a player like Tame Plumpty's had 3 in the URC this season, 2 yellow cards for Wales. So it swings and roundabouts, and I'm just trying to be objective there. But
Yeah,
I'm just going to push back at people at people having to go at Moriarty.
I think the thing is with Moriarty, he has a reputation that precedes this season for the way that he plays. He's known for being a very, very physical player, for being abrasive. He has punched people on the pitch before. Tame Plumtree's never done that. He tends to get very silly yellow cards. So I do think that there is a bit of a difference there. But I do see a point that Tame Plumtree has had more yellows this season. I think Ross Moriarty was extremely lucky not to get a straight red, and I'm surprised that it wasn't upgraded to a red in the bunker. But then, having got away with that to some degree, he then comes on and gives away a really, really stupid card, which again could have been a red but was given as a yellow. So I would not be surprised if he ends up getting a pretty hefty ban. Just because, one, I think the tackle itself will be cited as it should have been a red. And then the actual red for having 2 yellows, which, even though technically you don't have to have a ban for having 2 yellows, they still look at it. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with a pretty big ban.
Yeah, I disagree. I reckon I'd be very surprised, but that's just because I have no faith in the disciplinary system.
There is that. I think I'm judging it off non-URC standards.
I kind of, with Nick, in terms of Moriarty, he's someone that plays on the edge. He wouldn't be the same player if he wasn't on the edge all the time. He's abrasive, he's physical. You want him in your team. Someone like him in your team.
But But I don't think you can be surprised if he does get a card, if you know what I mean. Like,
Well,
you signed him knowing that's the type of player he is.
Yeah, he's probably more of a risk than someone that doesn't play on the edge. But the fact that he's only had one yellow card all season maybe shows that he's been on the right side of that of the discipline of the referees this season. So good on him. Look, it's one of those things, isn't it? He picks up a yellow card, and it is. Do you have was it 2 yellows?
2 yellows.
Two
Yeah,
yellows.
It was a red based on 2 yellows.
Yeah,
but as I say, I wouldn't be
could argue
surprised if
either
he
of
is
them.
cited.
No, he
I said,
can't
I
be
think that
cited, can he, if it's been
he'll go.
dealt with on field.
It will go. It usually goes to a disciplinary anyway. If it's 2 yellows to a red, they usually just go. But most of the time, if
It's
it's 2
just
yellows,
waved
they just
through.
go, it's fine.
But I
Yeah.
think that the tackle that you got the first yellow for, I would not be surprised if that just gets cited anyway, because I have no idea how that stayed at just a yellow. The guy landed on his head.
What do you do? Tip him?
No,
Yeah, so
he got the wrong
Moriarty
position.
Moriarty had knees on the ground, tackled him, and the guy went straight over his shoulder and onto his head.
Oh, free Ross Moriarty. Come on, the game's gone, Jeff. Game's gone.
Well,
Just
that's
sounds-
maybe he
the-
thinks he's playing with his dad.
It,
Free
it just
Ross.
reminds me of it was after the 2019 World Cup and Ray Lilo gets a red card for Samoa, and like the first game back on the terrace he's still banned, and everyone's just got like signs saying free Razor Ray. I said unless anyone else has any more to say on that, I think we move on to what for me personally is possibly the most encouraging performance of the weekend, even if it wasn't a loss.
Somehow it
Yeah,
was the
Scarlets.
Dragons.
Yes, Scarlets, you got a bonus point win against Zebra. Every team worth a salt gets a bonus point win against Zebra. Sorry, Nick.
Fair enough.
Dan, so 29-21 again away to the Stormers. There were a couple of bullshit tries in that, but actually I thought it was other than the scrum, I thought it was a very good performance, especially out there.
Yeah, well, look, let's start with the scrum. Scrums win games, I suppose, don't they? And it showed probably on the weekend that it could have been a different result for the Dragons in terms of being in that win-loss column, or from a bonus point perspective, if we'd have had more of a solid scrum, because one led directly from a scrum against a head, whereby the front row are absolutely pulverised, bless them. The fact that we're on our, and I said this to you before we started recording, effectively our 4th choice tight end now in Chrissy Coleman, and I class Sebo in that, because I think he would have still been around had he not picked up his injury. So without Sebo, and I know Sebo's gone to Sale Sharks now, albeit I think he's out for the rest of the season. Speedy recovery to him. We're without Dylan Lewis, and we're without Rob Hunt. So we're down to the Dragons. We're down to sort of our 4th and 5th choice tight ends, and it just showed, didn't it? That we got absolutely battered there, really. And it led to 1 try. It leads to penalties, easy exits, so on and so forth. Other than that, I thought the pack fronted up pretty well, got around the park, carried the ball hard at times. Douglas and Davis were industrious in the second rows. I thought Ryan Woodman impressed me again. I think Ryan Woodman's getting better week in, week out. Good player. And Keddy was his usual abrasive self as well. Harry Bedell come off. I haven't had a head knock. My understanding is he's up and around in the changing rooms and talking to everyone, but I would have thought he's probably going to be subject to some sort of concussion protocol, so I hope that he's okay. And yeah, other than that, it was positive for the Dragons. It was the unfortunate bounce as well that went over Rio's head. And Rio had a bit of a mixed bag, I suppose, in terms of luck on the weekend, because he had a try chalked off as well. And he nipped in for a good try on top of that. So to come away 29-21, the performance was good. The result, I am a little bit disappointed with it. I thought we were not. I'm not disappointed with the boys because they fronted up. They were good in defence at times. Although the set piece was wobbly, I thought the forwards went well around the park. I thought Paye was good again, coming in at 13. He's abrasive. He knows how to run a line hard. I'd like an Iron Owen is a good 12. Defensively, he's very solid. So we've started to get some options in that back line now. We've still got Tinas to come back in, Finney and Nisi to come back in as well. I would like to see Payer and Nisi have a go together in the midfield. I'd be interested to see what that's like. So on the whole, I was pleased, but I was disappointed. I'm more disappointed for the boys, really, that they didn't manage to come away with a bonus point of some description, because I think that performance probably deserved one. And we were a bit unfortunate not to come away with either a try bonus point or a losing bonus point. And again, we talk about depth. Nick mentioned it with Walsh playing at fly half and so on and so forth. But Jordan Morrison and Coleman, if we start maybe you win Jones or your Martinez, and we manage to get Hunt on the field, maybe it's a different story again at scrum time. No Wainwright, no Carter, no Shea Hope. So when you factor those things in, I think 29-21 away at the Stormers is a great outing for some of those boys. They're playing at a level that they've never really got to previously, and we would have seen other Dragons teams, especially in the last sort of couple of seasons, go out there and ship 50, 60, maybe even 70. So much improved again from the Dragons, and it'd be interesting to see what sort of rotations are made for next week, where we go to the Lions, who dispatched Edinburgh by 50, I think, this weekend. So anything similar will be another fantastic performance, and maybe with a couple of changes here and there in the starting back line, maybe we'll get over for those 4 tries. It'll be interesting to see the way that they look to play it next week, because do you maybe try and play Nisi and Paye in the centre together and look, we're just going to go and try and score 4 tries, or do we try and be difficult to beat, as we have been in recent weeks in terms of our defensive effort? But do we run the risk then of, defending for longer periods and not having enough ball and that game breaking ability in there? So I think having Angus as well at 10 goes to show that we're in desperate need of another fly half at the club. Whilst I thought Angus did a decent job actually on Sunday afternoon. He's without a doubt our best fullback. And Tinas would be our first choice fly half. There's no doubt. So that it'd be nice if in the off season we were able to pick up another fly half from somewhere, because I think we're very much the same as the Ospreys in that department. If Dan Edwards isn't available for the Ospreys, you got a backfill from somewhere else, normally full back with Jack Walsh. So yeah, on the whole, positive performance, steep learning curves for the likes of Owen James and Jordan Morris, who are recent 21 graduates, 20s graduates rather, and out of the frying pan and into the fire of South African rugby, and getting absolutely having your arse served to you at scrum time. So I suppose the only way is up. Was nice to see Elliot D back after a long layoff. I think he got injured in the first game of the season, if my memory serves me right, where we lost away to Ulster. So good to see him back. And yeah, let's see how they can perform next week when we head to the Lions. But on the whole, a positive performance. I don't know what you guys thought.
I have to be honest, I think any of us would be relatively happy with a 29-21 loss away to the Stormers. I wouldn't be upset, even if the Scars were having a good season and that happened. I'd be like, oh yeah, well, we're away in South Africa. I get what you mean. It's frustrating not, when you're 1 point away from having that losing bonus point, it's frustrating. Yeah. But, I saw some people online kind of say stuff about the Dragons. I just thought, actually, it's not a bad result. I think not even just the Welsh teams, I think many teams in the URC would be happy with that. Well, not happy, but, it's nothing to cry home over.
Yeah, and look, it was, what was it? There's only 4 tries to 3. It's not as if they run away with it on, there's extra tries in there, but he's just missed loads from the tee, etc. So yeah,
it was only the one kick he missed.
Yeah,
29. So
exactly.
and you forced it's a team that's supposed to be challenging for the title to take 3 take the 3. And that was before
Yeah,
they even had the try bonus point, and the bonus point came from a lucky bounce.
Yeah, look,
Really, like
absolutely, absolutely. We won 10 turnovers in that game, 7 line breaks. They only had 8 line breaks. Okay, they carried the ball more than us and had more post contact meters. But this is where we sort of failed ourselves. And we only had a 71% completion rate in the scrum. And we only won 87% of our lineouts. Compare that to the Stormers, who were at 100% for both. So, if you're only working at those sort of 7, let's average it out to sort of 3/4, 75% across your set piece, then you're going to struggle for position, field position and territory a little bit. Post contact meters, even though the Stormers did pip us on that, it wasn't by much. Dragons 152 meters post contact, Stormers 188. So
what was the carry difference?
Carries 106 to 82.
Stormers to Dragons there.
Stormers 106 ball carries, Dragons 82.
I'd argue that's probably not 80% of the post contact beater, so you're probably slightly better on that actually. If you go per carry.
Yeah, you would be. Yeah, and this is where I think the point is that, irrespective of the scoreline, even if they had had an intercept and picked up a couple more tries, the performance on the whole was very good. I would say, but it does go to show how important set piece is, particularly the scrum, because it led directly to 1 try, and our penalty count was 14. How many of those were at scrum time? Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but you see where I'm coming. It gives people easy outs, it allows them to go to the corner, gives them territory and possession. So, yeah, I was pleased with them. They put a right shift in, didn't they?
They did.
Dan, do you remember what the scoreline was when you played Glasgow? Because obviously Glasgow were top of the league and Stormers are second. And I remember when you played Glasgow, you got absolutely
40-odd nil, wasn't it?
Yeah,
away 48 nil, something along those lines.
So I think and that was right at the beginning of the season. So I do think it shows that yes, it's 2 different teams, but we're talking about first and second in the league. I think it shows quite a lot of progress throughout the season.
Oh yeah,
they're definitely making progress. But I think for all the Welsh teams, it's, can we take that next step and at least get points in South Africa, and to eventually win some games out there?
I mean, that's the thing. We have taken points and wins out there. I think just this particular time has been, just getting it consistently. But then there are other teams that, even South African sides themselves, aren't consistent against each other. If you look at how much of a mash their shield was, Bulls have lost quite a few games at home this season already. They're not as imperious as they once were. I mean, it is hard going out with the travel, and they, was it, really, do we really get ideal prep going straight out from the Six Nations? Because as we said, like some of us, a bit of ring rust. I said Dragons very admirable. I get it from that. I feel that I agree with Dan. They should probably deserve 1, if not 2, losing bonus points from that. But it's fantastic. It was a performance to be proud of.
Yeah, it
which
was.
I think is what most Dragons fans want.
Look, we went out to the Stormers last season as well, didn't we? And I'm just checking the result now that it was 48-12 we lost out at the Stormers last year.
Yeah.
So that that is a big turnaround for the Dragons. We lost last year in the Challenge Cup in January, 60 points to 10 against the Lions. So that'll give you another indication of where we've improved or not. Maybe the case in, after next weekend. And you're on about the Glasgow game, Hattie. We lost 49-0 at Scotstoun. So there's your progression over recent weeks. There's no doubt the Dragons have improved somewhat on early season performance, but also compared to last season as on the whole, I would say.
Yeah, I just want to add to something that Dan said there about young players, and it's more not Dragons players. I agree, everything's been said. But I know people criticise the league, and I understand that to a certain degree about the mishmash of teams. But those young players, in this case, Dragons young players, it's a hell of an experience to go to South Africa
Oh.
and play in those sort of conditions. The hard physical game they play. So in their rugby education, I think they'll get a lot from that.
Mm. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you, Nick. And when we went up to Glasgow, our backline consisted of, I'm looking at now, Jack Lloyd, Ackerman, Hugh Anderson, Di Richards. There's a lot of Di Richards just coming back into the fold of professional rugby after being semi-pro. Ackerman and Jack Lloyd and Anderson have been playing a lot of SRC rugby this year. Mackenzie Martin played. He hasn't featured much for the Dragons recently. So, there's a lot of, Dylan Keller here, Dylan Keller, Griffiths coming off the bench. There's a lot of young, and I think this is where we are in terms of, we've spoke about this previously, and I think most teams are the same in that if you could put out the same 23 every week and know that they weren't going to get injured or become fatigued and have all these other issues, we'd probably do okay. I think all four teams would probably be better than where we are. But unfortunately, when you're down to your fourth choice tight head, or you've only got one out and out fly half in your squad, these things become a little bit more problematic for you, I suppose, than they would do if your squad's bigger and more well resourced.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good place to wrap up the weekend's action.
Wrap it
Haha,
up.
that was not
Haha.
intentional. If you're enjoying my accidental puns or even the rugby chat, why don't you leave a lovely comment under the YouTube or send us lovely messages on the Twitters, the Blue Skies, Facebook, whatever social media platforms you use. We're also allegedly on Instagram and TikTok. I am
Yep.
not doing. I avoid social media now. I'm getting far too many random bots.
Oh,
So
are there women in your area, Harley?
weirdly, it's all about Gaza and Palestine.
Oh.
I saw people asking to donate to what are very suspicious looking funds, not official ones. So anyway, but that's by before we start going into politics. If you're enjoying all that stuff, that not the political stuff, but the rugby stuff, share it with a friend. Why don't you check out if you're enjoying, if you're listening to us and thinking, yeah, that's great, but I really want to hear a bit more about the Dragons perspective. We've got the Dragons Lair, we've got the Ospreys Eyrie. If you're bilingual and like speak, want to listen to a podcast in Welsh, we have Podlef Cymraeg that Nick hosts. I'm sure it's brilliant.
I doubt
One of
that.
my many.
I
I am a
doubt that
very
very
flawed
much.
individual. I'm a very flawed individual, so I can't speak it. We also have Saucepans and Side Steps, our Central podcast. We also have the Super Rugby Cymru podcast, which talks about the sort of the lane beneath. So if you want to know how the Rags are doing, how Ebby Vale are doing, how Newport, Aberafon. Oh, well, I'm not going to go through all the teams. That's all there. We also have our sister channel, which has already had an appearance on this on the show, the Global Gain Line. So you've got the URC Rewind, which talks about the league structure as a whole. They also did special Six Nations episodes. We have Hattie's Women's Rugby Treehouse, which occasionally drops an episode and is always a nice surprise.
We're recording this week.
Excellent. They record this week. We have the Top 14 Digest that Hugh does with the lovely Madam Maz. Which very proud. We've also got Scrum of the Earth, the Wall Street Journals on. We also then have the Interpro show and a bit of an animal for if you're into a bit more Irish or South African rugby. Drop a like, leave a comment. Also, if you are watching us on YouTube, little banners should be popping up with our merch. When I finally get some shipped, I will once I've actually gotten off my house and bought some and got it shipped, I can demonstrate our ways. But check it out. Helps with the pod, makes Lee happy. And remember, our podcast from 2 weeks ago, we want to get that up to 1 million views because I want a trip to Edinburgh. It's not going to happen, but if I keep going, maybe I'll will it into existence. Anyway, that's enough of the shameless puggling that Lee literally has a knife in my back to make sure I do every week. So, next weekend, fresh week. All four teams are away for the first time in quite a while, so that will lead to some weird and wonderful stats. I do not have any scheduling. First up, once again, is the not lunchtime friendly Sharks versus Cardiff at 5 o'clock. This game's going to be on Premier Sports.
It's not dinner friendly either.
It's no friendly. It's not putting your kids to bed friendly. It's not
Not
driving
work
2 hours.
friendly.
Oh,
It's not
bloody
it's not
South
finishing at
Africans.
4 and not getting in from work till 6:15 friendly. It's just a terrible fixture.
It says
Seriously.
friendly for South African. It's 7 o'clock there.
Yeah,
Well,
to
even
be
then,
fair,
apparently, it's a weird time because you'd think it'd be 7:35 or something, 7:45. Either
although
way,
there did seem to be quite a lot of people at last week's weird 5 p.m. match, so relatively a lot of
I think
people.
that the sound of it. That was all camera angles and stuff because they were saying on the Mohammed on the UFC Rewind was saying there was only about 3,000 there. So
Mm.
anyway, that's that. Sharks versus Cardiff. This is the Ebenezer-Beth return match. Unfortunately, I don't think Alex Mann's flying out, so we don't get to see that true rematch of Titans, which I think would just be great for pure banter. Although I don't think Cardiff are going to do particularly well in this. I don't see them improving. Although Sharks are prone to, after having a very big win like they have against Munster, absolutely shitting the bed afterwards. I don't think it'll happen before any South Africans come at me because they are the one group of people who seem to follow me around everywhere. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Um, don't really have a huge amount to say on this one. I mean, we were already playing pretty much our strongest team. I don't see what else we're going to do to change that. I mean, it not being an altitude might mean we're not absolutely fucking knackered after 10 minutes, but it's really nothing. Anyone want to jump in there? Or shall we move on to the next game?
Move on. I'll save it for the prediction league.
So next up, we've now got once again on the Friday night 7:45 fixture. We have the Tyburn Derby, or
No,
what should have been the Tyburn Derby because
it should have
Leinster
been.
rejected them.
Yeah.
So Leinster Scarlets, Leinster, they might bring in some more of the big names. All I know is your 13 is better than their 13 because
It's true.
Joe Roberts was better than Harry Millard, and Harry Millard is way better than Rico Ioane. Yeah, I said it. Come at me. So how are we feeling about this one, Hattie?
I might not put the telly on. Um, I have been worried about this game all season after what happened last season, where we beat them at home. Obviously, we then played them the week after and they beat us in the knockout. But I've been worried about it all season because it kind of feels like, it's the return league fixture. So, how's it going to go? The fact that they lost last weekend and were really frustrated by it freaks me out. And it does. And obviously, we're playing them at home, like they're at home. I feel like it could go quite badly. But then Leinster have been really up and down this season. Like they've not had many runaway wins that we're used to seeing with Leinster, where they put 50 on people. They haven't done it. I think they've only done it like twice. So I'm nervous, and I might just not turn the telly on. I just have a bath instead and just pretend it didn't happen.
I think the fact that Leinster haven't been as prolific in the sort of the regular season, if you like, is a good thing for them. Normally, they're pretty much perfect in the lead up to any sort of knockout stage of competitions and playoffs, and then the wheels fall off for them. So maybe that's Jacques Nienaber's experience coming in there. And I think there's a little bit more rotation and so on and so forth. But look, Aviva Stadium, Friday night, I can't see it happening if I'm honest. Where I said it was a routine victory at home for the Scarlets on against Zebra, I would suggest this would be the same.
It's a routine loss for us.
Routine victory for Leinster, possibly. But, again, it all comes down to performance, doesn't it? If you can go out there and perform irrespective of the result, then, you walk away with a bit more of a smile on your face.
I hope that the lads have a few pints of Guinness whilst they're out there.
Oh, be rude not to.
Yeah. Maybe a spice bag.
have a bit of a social. Get yourself ready for
For our
your
derbies.
round of 16, your European round of 16 game. Wait,
It's very rude, Harley, actually.
sorry. So I don't know why I'm just in that mood tonight. I'm sorry. I
He's
apologize.
feeling sassy.
It's that extra day I spent at home with my daughter over the weekend for her birthday. It's
Those
just
tea
rubbed off on me.
parties have gone right to your head.
They really have. It's being forced to wear a crown, and that I just haven't forgotten it.
Hmm.
Anyway, moving on. So the next two game, so the Scarlets game will be on S4C, and that's a 7:45 kickoff Friday evening. Then we move on to
S4C are putting on an away game.
Yeah, it's an away game.
Oh, they've blown the
Presumably they've got
budget on
Sarah
that.
Elgin to do it from, I think they were given the choice. You can either go to Connacht or Dublin. Because we know they're not going out to South Africa or even paying to have the Super Sport feed for that one. Anyway, so next up, by 15 minutes, the next game will be Connacht versus Ospreys. Nick, are you going to be in the team hotel this time?
No, I'm not going to be in the team hotel.
Oh, I don't believe it. No ways.
I've got to be there, but not in the team hotel.
You going?
Yeah.
See, Judith. Brilliant.
I don't want to let you down, Dan. Don't let you
Yeah,
down.
exactly.
Hey,
Are
look,
you getting frequent flyer points?
Must be.
I've just taken the opportunity while we still have a team to go to these away grounds.
Yeah, good for you.
And otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But anyway, going to the game, Connacht have put a good run together, and in fairness, I didn't expect them to win in Belfast last Friday. That's a good result. So they'll be targeting a bonus point against us. I think we'll be able to field probably our best team available. Obviously, we've already spoken that we're not expecting Moriarty to feature, so that'll be quite interesting to see whether they pick Jack Morgan at 8. Or I think Morgan Morris is not far off fitness, being fit again, or Morgan Morris. So it'll be interesting to see the back row sort of options there. We've got a lot, but just trying to see who actually gets picked. I think Matt Jones said that Rhys Davis is not far off being available as well, so that'll help our physicality. I would fully expect all our Welsh internationals. I know Gareth Thompson didn't play any minutes, but for whatever reason he didn't travel to Italy, so I'd expect him to come in. I'd expect Dan Edwards to start at 10, and I expect Dewi Lake to back as well, and I'd expect Jack Morgan to be certainly playing, and possibly Hardy starting at 9. So we've got no excuses, have we? That's as good a team as we can put on the field. And if it's our cup final, because if we don't win out in Galway on Saturday, we can forget about finishing top 8.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
For
Be nice to see
for
Jack
my
back.
for my 2 pence, don't put Jack at
to
8.
start.
He's a fantastic player,
but
but stick him at 7.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just
You've got you've got players who are better suited to 8 than Jack. Jack
Yeah.
is brilliant at what he does.
no, I don't disagree, but I suppose obviously then you're probably not going to have Harry Dees, but Harry Dees come off the bench, can't he, and add some energy off the bench. So it'll be very interesting to see that the back row who's actually picked. So yeah, it should be a good game. As I say, it's artificial pitch there, I think, isn't it? 4G in Connacht.
They've moved to a
Yeah.
4G now.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it's. But as I say, for us, it's a must-win game.
Just remember to take your coat, Nick.
Why will it rain?
There's a good chance.
Although
I'll
it
be
was
honest.
nice and sunny
That
in
was
the Celtic
one
Challenge
match of the
series.
season.
2 matches. It was a double header.
Oh right, okay.
But it was basically
the same
the same
afternoon.
day,
Same day.
Yeah.
Right, and then last but by no means least, we have Lions hosting the Dragons at 2:30. Bit of a hard one for Dragons now, going to altitude on a 6-day turnaround. But do you feel confident then?
I feel more confident after the weekend than I did previously with the boys going out there. I watched Lions a couple of times this season, and I know but the problem is a little bit of a false economy watching them away from home, isn't it? I suppose. I saw Cardiff beat them and so on and so forth, but having seen what they did to Edinburgh last week, it does concern me a little bit, although Edinburgh are no great shakes this season particularly. I'd just like for us to earn something out of this tour in terms of points on the board. So whether that be a losing bonus point or a try bonus point, we're probably more likely to get a try bonus point this time out maybe than a losing BP. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what sort of team gets picked. I don't know whether they're going to fly the likes of Carter and Wainwright out or give them a total rest. With the first round knockout of the Challenge Cup bearing down on us quickly, because I think it's after the Lions we go straight to Paris, I believe, the following weekend.
Yeah, you've got that'll be the following Sunday.
There you go. So look,
Bit longer there.
it's a tough ask, isn't it? It's a little bit Hobson's choice, really. Where do you want to give those boys a run out? Do you want to give them a run out at altitude against the Lions, or do we fancy our chances a little bit more out in Paris? Who knows? Either way, this there'll be three tough away fixtures on the spin. But if we can go out and have a performance, I can't see us winning at Ellis Park. But if we can go out and have some level of performance, then I'd be happy bunny again, and ultimately come through it unscathed, because we've got bigger fish to fry in the coming weeks, whereby we host Edinburgh at Rodney Parade, we go away to Zebra, we go away to Park of Scarlets as well. So those are 3 games that we can target a little bit more, and we got the Bulls to come to Rodney Parade actually. Those are 4 games I would suggest we can target a little bit more than the likes of Lions away and then Start away.
I think the big difficulty for you guys once again is going to be your scrum. If you can try and keep the handling errors down, which is easier said than done, you're in for good. The thing with the Lions is they look really good when they're scoring tries, because a lot of their tries come from counter transition. They're more likely to score from their own 5-meter line than they are from the 22.
Yeah.
And good teams have worked out how to beat the Lions now. I mean, good teams, and even Cardiff have worked out how to beat Lions now. And it's going to sound counterintuitive to you, Dan, but it's give them the ball. Because if you give them the ball up against a set defense, they struggle. Where they get you is on sloppy kick transition, and if they turn over your ball. So when you have the ball, you've got to be very good at keeping it, and you just keep them down there. And again, it's easy said than done up in Joburg, but I may not be able to see the Dragons win, but I can see them keeping this close, because I think they are better. I do genuinely think they're a far better coach than the Edinburgh team that did basically the exact same thing they did last season out there, where they just played straight into the Lions' hands.
Yeah,
So,
and look, I think that I've banged on about performance all season, but I do think the performance element is right, because when it's come to the crunch then a little bit, we have managed to turn those closer defeats into, well, mostly draws this year, but also wins as well, at times, and especially at home. So I fancy Edinburgh at home. I really do. We've done okay against South African opposition at home this season. We drew with the Sharks earlier on in the season, which we all know we should have won. So what I'm really fearful of is that we have a total blowout. That's no good to anybody having a total blowout. And since shipping 49 away at Glasgow, we have gradually got better to the point whereby we've gone to Munster, and it was closely contested battle. It was a ding dong down at the Brewery Field. So we are getting better away from home. So I just hope that level of performance is there again. D keeps the defense keeps on improving, and we're just difficult to beat, rather than it being a blowout. But like I've said all along with the Dragons, it's going to depend on that 23 really that gets sent out to do the business on the weekend. And if it's close to full strength, then we stand a chance. If we're gonna mix it up and the tombola comes out, then yeah, who knows? Because we saw what happened out in Benetton when we made too many changes. So that's just where we are at the moment, isn't it? That's the reality of of what the squad's like. So performance, that's the big thing for me.
Absolutely. And now we'll move on to Nick's favorite part of the show, which is the predictions. No, I'm not going to tell you what the scores and the doors are next because I'm mean. But we are going to start in reverse order this week, just because I feel bad for putting Dan last for the previews last week, last for the reviews this week, and previews again. So, can you please give me your predictions for Sharks Cardiff, then Leinster Scarlets, then Connacht versus Ospreys, and then finishing off with Lions and your Dragons, please?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go Sharks again. I think away from home is tough out in South Africa, but I think there'll be an improved performance this week from Cardiff. Sharks by 12. Cardiff to pick up a try scoring bonus point, I think. Leinster by 19. It'll be 30 odd something, I think, to Leinster. I can see that being routine. Sorry, Hattie. Connacht Ospreys. It's an interesting one. Whilst Connacht have been on the up a little bit, and it's a tough place to go, there's no reason why a full strength Ospreys team can't go out and do the business out there. Ospreys by 3, and Lions by 20.
Oh, I think you're really doing yourself down there.
No, I think they'll beat us by 20. They'll throw it round a bit more, but I'm hoping it's like 30 odd, 20 odd, and we get 4 tries out of it. If it's 36-28, I'll take that. But then they'll beat us by less than 20. But you know what I'm getting at. I think it'll be that. Maybe
if only we knew. If only we could think of a scoreline where there was like 20 points difference.
I know.
Like
I know. But then I don't want it to blow out the 40. So that it's gonna be
account for some missed kicks and
it's gonna be Lions by 20 points, I think. So
okay, next up, Nick.
Okay, who was first? It was
Sharks Cardiff.
I go Sharks by 15. And next was Leinster. I think they will have a pushback from Leinster after that. So Leinster by 22. I can't see any Welsh team winning this weekend. No. I'm sorry. I'm going to go Connacht by 3 and Lions by 12.
Okay, Hattie, try and give us some positivity here, please.
I am going to say Sharks by 9. I'm going to say Leinster by 15. I'm going to say Connacht by 2. I think it's going to be really close. And then I'm going to say Lions by 10.
All right, leaving me with, after all my talk about positivity and the like, I've gone for Sharks by 16.
Ooh.
I just don't see it. Leinster by 12. Connacht by 8, and I think the Lions are only going to sneak past the Dragons. I think by 3, which I think, and I think that 3 is going to be like I'm going to think it's going to be like a try.
I'll take that.
Right at the end, right at the death sort of thing.
I just hope.
And
if any Welsh,
if any Welsh team does win next week, we'll have like party poppers or something in the next episode.
Yeah, because I think you need that. That is a horrid bunch of fixes. I'd say the most winnable game is probably the Ospreys away in Galway, but their record out there hasn't been great.
Look, right. I know we're a week away from round 14, but I'll get ahead of the game here on the positivity front, and every team in Wales will win next time out, apart from either Scarlets but we'll have a win in that game, obviously, or Cardiff, because it's a derby. So you've heard it here first. A week in advance. We'll talk about it next week.
Well, it's going to be 3 weeks in advance because we've got 2 rounds of Europe in between.
Oh, all right. You know what I mean.
On the plus side, there will be for rounds 15 to 18. There will be at least one Welsh winner every round. I can guarantee that.
Played each other.
Yeah. Unless it's a draw.
Oh, that's the point. Yeah, Dragons are going to be playing in two of those, so there is a chance of draws.
I think we've had 2 draws, and I think Scarlets had 2 draws as well, Hattie?
We've had one draw.
Who have you drawn with, though?
I can't remember.
In the fog, you do.
Oh yeah, Benetton in
Okay,
in The
yeah.
Shining.
Yeah, but if
In
you
the
didn't see the
mist.
game, did it ever happen?
No.
Someone could physically watch it.
No one could see it, so it didn't really happen, did it?
Right. Look, there's some tough fixtures this weekend. You know, you're going away South Africa, you're going away Dublin, and Galway. It's it's tough to win away from home, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
two
really
games
is.
in Ireland, 2 games in South Africa. It literally could not
You know, it
be
is
any
really
worse.
tough to win. You know, even teams coming to Wales are finding it tough to pick
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah.
wins, aren't
It's,
they?
com-
You know,
it's a
it's tough.
competitive league.
It's competitive league. You know, so yeah, we'll be better off in 3 weeks' time for those nitpicking, Harley. But yeah, come on, the boys.
Absolutely. And on Dan's wonderful note of positivity, I would just like to say thank you to the panel for putting up with my silliness and me being in a very sassy mood, as Hattie's called it. Thank you, listeners, for putting up with all of us. And all that's left to say is, Nosta.
That's that.
Stuff.